have these set up as each individual quilt block. And they're all just resting on scrapbook paper. You can see underneath this one, that's the scrapbook paper. I know this is quilt block 1, and then I'm going to look at quilt block 1, which is the same as this one right here, and decide how I want to stitch it where it's easiest. I gave myself a 1/2 inch seam allowance because personally I find it a little bit easier. Everybody else in the world uses 1/4 inch, but I'm okay with 1/2 inch. So I decide with every one of these blocks which way I want to stitch it. In this case, because I have 2 long strips and this one in the middle, it feels like I should stitch these to each other first, and then these out that way. And I iron in between. So I have my ironing board right here. And so once I stitch it, then I have my open seam, and then it'll be seamed like this. I have my pretty pointy little iron, and it'll iron it back this way. And I'll iron these before I stitch the next set. That way it's not all clumping on the bottom side of my quilt face. So I keep my ironing board handy. And I just am going to go through and make sure that, now this doesn't have an upside, but if it did, then I'd make sure it was twisted to the proper way. And I also know that I have these two at exactly the same width, and that helps me. I have my pins handy. I took them out of that little magnetic thing. I have my pins handy so I can pin them so I don't screw up my edges. And you can see it's easier if I have something white and something of color to see what I'm doing there. And I just pin it to make sure that I know which way I'm going. When I say I know which way I'm going, that's because I'm doofy enough that I could accidentally stitch it that way. Yep, I'm that person. All right, I have my thread here. I find my 1/2 inch line. I pull this out. I go down. I stitch just off of. Helps to have it on. I stitch just off, and then this makes it go backwards. Whatever your machine is, just go with. And so now you can see that's what the top will look like. Before I iron this, instead of piecing and then ironing every single one, I'll stitch this one next. Follow my 1/2 inch guide. And yeah, I don't always pin it. That's just goofy on my part. My iron's not hot yet, so I'll show you that in a second. I just Googled it, and it says that my temperature setting on this machine is 400 degrees for 100% cotton. And if it's 400 degrees for 100% cotton, I set it on 4, because on the label it says setting for approximately 330 to 410 degrees. So that's fine with me. It's on setting 4. I'm going to let it heat up a little bit. I bring this back over. And one thing to keep in mind when you're doing your little cutesy iron, or even your big iron, is that what you're going for is to separate this seam and keep it nice and flat. If it's not absolutely perfect, remember, homemade things are sometimes a little bit wonky. Don't over stress about it. But now you can see why this would lie nice and flat on the inside, and then your batting is going to go right here and in the back of the quilt. So this would make it bumpy. So that's why you want to iron it. Now, the other thing, the other reason, and this is important on why you want to iron it, is that when you go to do your stitching, and you're stitching over this corner right here, sometimes you'll have 4 different materials all clumped up right there. If it wasn't ironed, that would be so difficult. All right, so this is nice and ironed, and this is still hot. I have to be really careful with this baby, and I have him stored off to the side. That way I don't burn my toes. So I'm still on block 1. This is up. If I need to reference it, I keep this over and handy off to the side. And I turn this in facing each other again. I have this corner all lined up, and this corner is going to dangle over a little bit. That really is not a big deal to me if it dangles over just a little bit. Why? Because I'm doing each of my blocks one by one, and it'll all square out in the end. I'm not going to worry about it. We're talking millimeters, people. Millimeters. But it's fine. So let me get my threads out of the way again. And my corners up. Make sure I'm on my 1/2 inch line. Oh, one tip, and I forgot about this. Instead of sewing on the nice straight side like this, sew on this side. So this is my up, this is the side I'm sewing on. These are the corners I lined up. It's okay to turn it over because I'm all lined up on these corners. Okay, I was lined up on these corners. There we go, all lined up on these corners. And I'll stitch. Make sure I'm at the 1/2 inch mark, which is right here. You can use a blue tape, or I guess it just depends on what you're doing. Come to the end. So I'm a little bit anal when and I'm sure that doesn't surprise you, when it comes to the extra pieces. So I have a pair of scissors handy. I get a call right when I'm about to do something or say something. Okay, so these two are stitched together, and I'm not going to press that just yet, but I could if I wanted to. I just want to get this side stitched now. So I'm going to lay this to the corner and this down to the corner as well. If I had a piece that wasn't long running piece, then I probably would pin it. And I'll show you where I would pin it. I would pin it right at the seams here. And that's usually where my pins go. I'm sure other people have better places and better ways. It's just that's what works for me. You find what works for you. And I want to sew it on, like I said before, on the side. Go to my 1/2 inch again. I hate how it curls. Drives me nuts. There we go. Go on my 1/2 inch line again. Put it down right towards the edge of the material. And stitch forward. Stitch back. And there we go. Okay, this came a little crooked. There we go. And this side is done. Now I will press this open, and this black one, after I press it, I'll put a little thing right here so I don't forget which block it is when I lay them out. That way I don't accidentally stick block 1 beside block 4 instead of above it. Okay, so I'll take this off, iron it out, and because of the back and forth to try to keep you on video, I'll just do the ironing off video from now on. I don't mind leaving the stitching on, but this is a hassle to leave the ironing on. And you'll be able to see that yes, I did the ironing like I said I was going to do the ironing. I know there's somebody out there saying, press, don't push. Holy smackaginoles. So I went to the sewing machine store, and I don't know what I was thinking. But as part of my quilting video, which is kind of funny because it's almost like a diary that I'm sharing with you guys, but I came out of the sewing machine store with a new sewing machine. I suppose that's okay. But I like nice, clean lines, and I like things made with metal instead of plastic, and I bought the floor model, so you know what, it's just a machine that makes me happy. It's the TL 2010Q Juki. And I just want to make a bunch of Juki jokes. I don't know why, but that's what I want to do. And it has one stitch. That's what it does. One stitch. And it's not as loud as like a Serger crazy loud sewing machine, but it's one cool quilting machine. Now I don't need to get rid of my other sewing machine because that's the one that will do all the other regular stitches, but this is a nice big pocket for quilting. And I just like it. Comes with a walker foot too. I don't have that on right now because I don't need it yet until I have all the materials. But I'm not going to do a big old demo on that. I did buy this as extra, which is a magnetic thing that helps me with my seam. And it lets me know when I hit a 1/2 inch. So now I'm going to do my first stitch with it. I should do scrap, huh? I think I should do scrap. Let's do scrap before we stick these guys together. But let's pin this together to make sure I'm happy with it. And I have to say, the customer service at that place I just bought it from was absolutely amazing. I wish customer service was like that everywhere. Now then again, his customer service was so good, they sold me a sewing machine that, don't ask me what I paid for it. Don't ask me. Don't ask me what I paid for it. Because you will laugh at me. But I did go online and it's cheaper than other people pay for it, so that makes me feel better. First stitch. I got my Mickeys ready to go. Where's my little magnet? My little magnet sitting over here. I'll put my scissors over there so I don't accidentally do something wrong. Put my foot down. That always makes me want to tell a joke. I'm putting my foot down. Alright. Go backwards. And look, it sews like every other sewing machine. I have it on slow poke, because I am a slow poke. I need to make sure that I don't have anything weird going on. It doesn't look weird to me, so it's fine. I'll speed it up just a little bit. Wonder what the scissors are for. I guess I'm going to have to watch a few videos to learn about this baby. Go backwards. And finish him off. And it did it again, I think. Yep, look at that. I don't know why it did that. What's happening on the bottom side? It's probably tension or something, but it looks fine on the stitch. It looks fine on the stitch there too. Alright, so I'll go back to the way I was doing it before. I'm going to iron all this. I just wanted to share that bit of coolness with you that I went shopping when I went to the store. And I'll put you on fast forward. Oh, look at that. That's why you flip it the other way. So because this happened, I'm going to go ahead and iron it closed. That's a good lesson for why not to do it that way. Now back to making sure I have this stitched right, face to face. Okay, no redoing. Ain't none but a chicken wing. Again, I have to follow on it. Where's it? Only a message. I know where you're going. And also it. I don't know where I've lost the number 2. A lot has happened since I started that one. So I'm putting in the safety pins here, not safety pins, push pins here because I don't want to forget which way it goes. While I thread this needle 5,000 times. So quilt block 12 is finished, the little bottom little corner. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this with me and I'm going to lay it out onto the floor, and hopefully it looks the way I want it to look. If not, we're going to love it as it is because I hate the stitcher ripper. But because we have everything on these papers, I'm going to restack each one of these. To help me lay them out. And you can see that I did remember to put all my numbers on except my last one. So let's put the last number on so I don't mess up. And let's lay them out. Yay! Okay, so what we have here is a quilt. And I want to lay it out to make sure we like how it's coming together. And I'm hoping I don't have to bring out the stitcher ripper. Okay. The easiest way for me to keep this stitching going well, how will that work? Well, those are long. So let's go longwise. 1, 4, 7, 10. We'll pick it up like that. So we'll make our next set of stitches. See what I'm saying? Where I can stitch, hopefully,
This to this.
Mama
This
and
to
grandbaby
this.
like it too. This to this. And the same here. So then I'll stitch them this way. And that makes sense. So I'll stitch 1 to 4 and 7 to 10 and then 4 to 7 maybe. But either way, it doesn't matter. This is the way it needs to be stitched. And then I'll come back after this row, and this row are stitched. Then I'll stitch the whole shenanigan. That looks good to me. I like how it came out. And I like the size. I know, what do you think? Do you like it? I like it. Okay. So now I'm going to stack it this way.
Okay, what we have here is a
You don't
stack
really need
of
the
finished
pieces
little
of paper
quilting
in the
squares,
same way, no?
and I am excited about starting to stitch these together. I know that if I'm doing this
What
row,
I
which
might
is
do
3, 6, 9, 12, that I want 3 to be at the top.
3 of these pages.
So I'll stitch these two sides together. And so
That
what I'm
way
going to
it's easier
need
to pick them
at
up.
hand is these guys and a few pins. I don't need a lot of pins, but just a few pins. I have my scissors handy because sometimes I just need to clip the threads. I have my iron
My hair.
ready to
I'm
go
shedding.
because
I'm
once I
shedding.
stitch
See,
it,
I don't have any
I'll come
pets.
back and iron
I
them.
just have myself and my yarn,
And iron as I go versus
my threads,
constantly ironing.
my craft
Underneath my
messes.
table here,
And that's
I
enough
set something there
mess
so I don't
we
have
did
to
for
bend
some.
over so far to grab my pieces. And I'm going to keep them
Did I put one on the bottom? Yeah.
numbered. So I have 3 and I have 6. They're going to attach this way. And I'm just going to put it now 12, 9, 6, and 3. I definitely want to make a book out of these fabulous papers. So let's Does it need to be precise? Well, the more precise, the better. Is it perfect? Never. My quilts are not
Okie dokie,
perfect.
so
And
this
you
is
know what?
6.
That's because I'm not a machine.
And this is 9.
Okay. I don't need to be a machine. Now, the one nice thing to do when you're doing these,
And I know that in my design I
this is
put
one
Mickey
long
Red Pants
strip
matched up to Mickey
Let's
Red
flip
Pants.
them
But
over.
if you have to double check your
look at
design,
So
and
I
double check it.
probably
Keep
want to
that
have this
little
side
sheet of paper
up, handy because
You
then
wanna keep
I
that
can keep
sheet
an eye on
handy.
making sure I don't accidentally stitch a mess.
Oh yeah, that
underneath
makes me
here.
happy.
So I just took
All
my
right,
two
So this baby
push pins out, and I want this side up.
is gonna have.
And I really only
Excuse
choose
me,
the
when I
upside
say
based
to
on
pin
where
it
my
proper,
ironing pieces
pin it
are
proper.
versus
There we go.
one solid piece.
We'll just
That's
pin
actually an
his ear
advantage
back.
of this quilt design.
Yeah, but we come down.
Because now that I
here
look at
and
it, when
get
I'm
his
stitching
little
this baby
corner.
together, I'm always going to have a solid piece. How nice. Oh, yep,
Gonna
these
put
are
this
even
one
two solid
in
pieces.
just
Yeah.
for the giggles
Oh,
of it.
that's the only spot. These 3 stitches, I'm not going to have a solid piece, but I'm going to
Alrighty
show
then.
you a secret about that when we
I'm
get
gonna
there.
mess this up, so I'm gonna set this here.
Okay, so ready to turn on my machine. Down we go. Push that forward a little bit. I have my pedal ready. I have my
Forwards.
machine on. Ding. And the lock in the stitch. So I go forward. I back stitch to make sure I lock the stitch in. And then I come up here. When I get about here, I pull my pen out. I have actually poked myself pretty good before. And cut this. So I have to keep that in mind too. Cut the thread, I mean. Oh, cut it out. I like this new sewing machine. Okay, now we have 9. Okay,
Off
now I'm
to
at the
12
end
we
and I
go.
didn't
Off
put a
to
little
12.
a little pen in, but I'm still keeping it together. And we want to make sure
About
that
the only
we're
thing I
right.
keep together.
We know we're going long
Going
ways.
backwards,
So right side up for this one,
going
going
Mickey Mouse
forwards,
that way.
and cutting the thread. One
There
of the
you
main
go,
ways you can
and
make sure
it's
your
all
fabric's
pretty
all
now.
right side
Woohoo!
up is you can use your numbers to keep them right side
So
up.
piece 3 is
When I
sewn
say
to
that,
piece
see
6.
how my number is right side up in the corner there? You could do that. And next, oh, you know what? I can just turn my iron off
There
because
we
I'm going to sew these pieces together. Then I'll iron them through here because they don't need to lay across
that
each one. Let's poke through here to get this one. Okay, it helps to actually poke through. So let's line you up again because I didn't do a good job of that. There we go, corner to corner. Poke you here. And I'll go ahead and put one on the bottom. And the number of pins you need is based on the number of seams you have. And it seems I have only 2 pins and a bottom corner. There we go. Oops. Now, I like my thread to come out into the back there. There we go. 1 little, 2 little, 3 little stitches, 4 little, 5 little. Now the one thing, it may appear that I'm pulling on my material, and I promise you I am not pulling on the material. But I do want a smooth surface. Looks like I knocked that, so I'm going to have to re-straighten it. After this. All right. So this row is done, and I can iron. Number 2 attaches to number 5. 2 and 5 upright this way. And now what's important to note on 2 and 5 is you'll see that I have seams on this side and seams on that side. That actually helps me a lot. And the reason it helps me is because I can line up the points on the seams using the pens. Then it makes it look more professional. And even if you have a slightly wonky quilt, when your seams line up like that, it looks good. And so what I've done is I have the seam on this side, the seam on that side, and a pen to pin the two together. Double checked to make sure that it was right side up, and we're ready to get started. I go slow when I come up to it. If you start to bunch it, I just lift the foot, lay it back down. Now when I come down to the bottom, I want to make sure I have my corners all lined up. And cut the thread. This fabulous foot pedal has a cut the thread thing. That is just the coolest thing since slice thread. All right, here we go. Number 5 lines up with number 8, and this is upright, my Mickey's match. I'm going to have seams like this again, which is lovely. So if you did a quilt where all your squares are 4x4s or 3x3s, then this would help you keep your quilt super square, which is fabulous when it happens. But when you're stitching and you're going over that little section, make sure you go slow to make sure you don't bunch your seams, because then you'll have to unstitch it and it'll be difficult. And I don't like difficult. Forward, knot it, and then nice and slow. Nice and slow. Don't poke yourself. Now if I can do this, and you can handle sharp objects, coming up to it again, you can do this. A little bit of pressure on it. All right, nice and slow. This is my last row. Now I'm down here. First row. And I want to line up my corners. This is going to go from 1 to 10. And let me do this one more time nice and slow. So I know that this one goes this way. When I look at my pattern, number 10 is right here. Okay. Back stitch, number forward. 10 is right here. And then cut the thread. This one, if I was to have a number there, you can see that's number 7. Woohoo! This is number 2, 4. 1, all right, 4, off 7, to the next 10. One. And now that's 8 rows I'm doing right now. 9, 10, 11. And I do a quick reminder to myself which way it goes. Make sure I'm upright again. With the white background that's yellow and here. I am. He should be on top. Your pattern is so if I'm to double check and go, okay. So this is my Mickey with the white background right here. Yourself with the, and he goes on top. I flip him with the numbers face to face, because he's the top, and that's the bottom of my number 1. Lining this up, going after my seams, putting square. I don't have any seams like this here, but I do on this side. So that helps me decide which side is up. Square to what I want to do is pen this. She's square dancing. And pen this here, we're good there. Helps me keep my seams flat and focused. I see that I'm a little cockeyed. Helps me keep my stitch straight on both sides. And then I go to my corner. My square to square is all lined up, and I'm going to let it be. Grab one more pen, and maybe this piece is cut a little different. And I see that as I go here, my square to square is still lined up. So put it under here. Right here must just you've already penned the proper side, and that's okay with me. You go forward, and you go backwards, square out. And you don't have to worry about going all the way to the edge, because don't forget, you're going to stitch these together. Backwards. So this edge is going to end up getting stitched this way slow when it connects to the rest of the quilt. So I'm going to go nice and slow and pull him out. And I keep knocking this thing. So I now know about where he goes. And that one's done. Woohoo! All right. Isn't that one cute? You can do the same thing as this with a piece of tape. So let's do that with some washi tape before I'm done here. So take this little guy. Ooh, that's not metal. Wow. It's metal, but it's not. I've done that before. All right, here we go. This is 1, this is 4, and I would have done it upside down if I wouldn't have numbered these. There. All right, so that's what are we gonna do? We are going to pen the seams. I'm gonna hook up 7 to 4. And I know that Mickey Red Pants is at the top of 7 and the bottom of 4. See? Mickey Red Pants is the little orange with the P for pants. Line them up nice and square. And for those of you who like to do it without pens, let's do that. I might want to move my washi tape out of the way. I don't want to knock it over. Oops. Didn't mean to do that. Yeah, he's okay. All right. Love you to the moon and back. All right, last one to attach here. So now we are on 10. 10 attaches to 7. And let's lay it this way so you can see it better. 4, 7, 10. 10 is upright. Steamboat Willie's going that way. And so I flip him this way. Now look, I have seams right there. And what we have here is column 3. I know I use the word column and row interchangeably. Okay, what we have here is column 3. And we have all of these done. I've already done this now, for the next column thing 1 and 2. But I go in and I leave the number 1, the number 2. This row. And I'm leaving the number 3. 1. I'm going to look for row number 2. But I take off any number greater than 3. We're going to stitch all these together. Because I only have, which means 3 I don't need left to sew to have the labels. So 6, 9, and 12 are 7 and 10 on the side here. So I can take every other number off. From 4 to 12 is sitting on the side over here. And I won't need the labels 8, 11. So this column now needs to be ironed on the back side. Okay? So ironing this on the back side is no big deal. Some people may choose to iron it this way. I still choose to open it up and iron it flat where I can. If I made any mistakes, which I did on column 2, where it got folded over right here, then I make sure that I crease any of my mistakes sideways. I'll show it to you later. Okay, open this up. I have this little one to the number 4 heat setting because I'm ironing cotton. And cotton can handle high heat. This fabric is supposed to be pre-washed. As you can see, I've already ironed it. Now you check out all your seams, see if there's any additional ironing that needs to be done. Open this baby up, which makes me think about cars. There we go. Let's flatten Mickey a little bit here and there. And move on. So there may be 4 squares. But there's only 3 seams to iron connecting the 4 squares. And I'm still inspecting, so this one was pretty good. There were no mistakes on this one where it folded over. That one's pretty good. Alright, what I'm going to do now is, now that it's ironed, I'm going to turn my these off to the side and safe. This one is upside down. So this one is column 3. I'm going to now, since this is column 3, I take column 2, and he wants to be here, which means that these two corners have to be the same. Well, in order to make sure I don't mess up, I want to fold this over and attach these two corners. Okay? So I'll attach these two. I am going to look at both sides of each section. Now, because of the way I made this quilt, let me open it back up and show you something. Because of the way I made this quilt, I know that this side is probably going to be my back side when I'm stitching, because it's a long solid, and they're all 12 inches long. Okay? So I'm looking for this seam right here. Let me do this again. So I have this corner is attached to this corner. And I go on, I'm looking for this seam, and I'm putting the line right there to the line right here. When I put those two lines together, I can now put my pen in that spot. I'll come back and do these spots, but I just want to do it every 12 inches first to make sure that part's square all the way down. Otherwise, I have the risk of making it wonky on the way. Okay, so I have these two parts. And I line up this seam to this seam. I make sure that I have it nice and square. And I attach. I'll worry about that seam later. Let's go to the next one. I'll come back down to the next one. And this is how I do, at least my way of doing it best, to keep the seams all nice and square. Alright, so I have this seam and that seam. I line up the two lines. I know I'm repeating myself, but I'm telling you, it helps me when I watch videos that do that. At least for the first section. Then they fast forward and that's fine. You know what, if I'm going too slow for you, YouTube has a thing where you can go in and fast forward it yourself. You can make it play faster. Alright, so I'm going to move him on. And I'm going to go down to the bottom here. And I have one long 12-inch strip. And on the back side, it's also a long 12-inch strip. So I'll put him at the bottom. Now I may not have done this before, but here, because it's such a long area, I'm going to go in and put one halfway. Okay? That just helps me keep it straight. Go into this section. I know on the back side it's smooth, but I'm going to come in here and I have pen to pen. I'm going to go in and keep him right nice and flat on the seam. It'll remind me to slow down anyway. This one, let's keep you nice and flat on the seam. This one's nice and open. There we go. And keep you nice and flat on the seam. And yeah, I do kind of use it interchangeably, where sometimes I put it on the bottom one, sometimes on the top one. The way I see it, I take it out anyway. So I'm going to pull it to make sure I get it nice and flat, and then grab this one. There we go. And he's in. And the last one I'm going to do here, I'll pull it nice and flat. And that helps me keep it nice and straight. Okay, now I'm going to show you what I did before on the back side where I made a mistake. Here's one mistake. I just folded him over and ironed him flat. And you can see where he accidentally got sewed flat this way, so I just embraced the iron and did it that way. Where's another section where I did it a little bit crooked and I ironed it? There it is. So right here, when he got stitched flat here, but yet he's flat there. So I just came in and flattened him out. I didn't have to unstitch anything. He'll be just fine. Alright, now what I'm going to do, is because all my pens are on this side, I won't accidentally stitch this side. Double check. This is column 3, this is column 2. Yep, and I'm happy with that. I bring them over. He's right side up. Yep. And he's right side up. Yep. And then I bring him to my sewing machine. Now on my sewing machine, I can put that big plate back up if I want to, but I don't feel like it, so it's fine. And I'll drop them down. I might put them back up when I get ready to stitch later. So I go forward, no different than when I stitched it before. But what I'm going to do here is I have a lap. Lap helps me. I'm going to just take this material and rest it on my lap. Make sure I'm not poking myself, so it's not so much weight hanging way down. Alright, and it's just on my left side of my leg. And I don't know if I went backwards or not. Now I did. Alright, I don't need my ironing board, which is also my cutting board. By the way, this is just a great mat. I love this thing. I use it all the time. They're doing landscaping next door, so I'm special care on the stitch where I have a seam. What can I say about noise? I got my own sewing machine noise going anyway. Makes each part go a little better. Alright, I'm coming up here and I'm going to go slow. Now remember, I have a feeder, the feeder on the bottom of the sewing machine. This is not a walking foot, this is just the regular foot that comes on the sewing machine. Please be super careful and don't stitch your fingers. Oh, that would hurt. Going nice and slow. Uh-oh. Look at that, I lost my stitch. Send the needle back up. I lost the stitch right there. And cut the thread. It's up, it's out, and it's out of there! Woohoo! we are getting closer. Now we stitch row 1 to row 2. And I'm still going to leave my numbers 1, 2, and 3 up there because it just makes me feel better. So I'm stitching row 1 to row 2. I know this is going to be my back side because on this side I also have a nice long 12-incher all the way down. They're each 12 inches long in my design. So okay. So just to make sure I'm thinking about it, this side goes here, which means that when I stitch them together, this side lays on top of this side.